My name is Alana, and I'm with Artful Teaching, Joyful Learning, and I help parents and educators teach with confidence and ease and a little splash of creativity so that their kids fall in love with learning. Now, today, I want to share with you some of my very favorite tools and resources to use with young kids at home. But today I want to share with you a few of my very, very favorite tools that I think are going to really keep you organized, get you inspired, and bring the fun back to learning for your children. Okay, I believe in artful and joyful learning. So here we go. We're going to get started. So the first thing I want to share with you is probably one of my favorite and one of the things I get asked about all the time. And that is the idea book. Now, this idea is not a new one. In fact, it was shared with me back when I was a teacher in the public school system by one of my mentors, Andrea Bell Stewart. And an idea book is virtually a living portfolio. It's a place for our children to house their work. It's a place for our kids to share their ideas and their questions and observations. It's a place for us to store little notes and observations as well, and reflections. So an idea book is much like what you might think of a portfolio. Now, I am coming at this from a Reggio-inspired approach or framework. And in Reggio, documentation is really, really important. Okay, documentation is making thinking and learning visible. So when we have an idea book like this, now this is just a coil-bound book from the dollar store. You can see there, it's $4. Okay, so it's not going to break the bank. But it's just a simple sketchbook, right? A coil-bound sketchbook. And the weight of the paper is nice and heavy. So if you glue things in, it's not going to rip out on you. Now, I always have my children start with a self-portrait. So this is a way that we can start to make our idea books our own, or our kids' own. So you can see here, this is just a simple Sharpie sketch. And then here I've got a little name sample. Okay, so name samples are a great way to document your child in the moment and their awareness of print and their awareness of spelling their own name. But you can see here that Mia started with a self-portrait here. This is a painted self-portrait. And as we go along, you can see that it's full of both real work, like real artifacts, as well as photos of work that we've been doing. Okay, so this is a color mixing experiment. And here's a little bit of a reflection of that experiment. Some leaf studies. Here she did a family portrait. And we did some little cut up sentences here as well. Hi, Jennifer from Chicago. Welcome. And so a space for some creative writing and art. This was a study that we did looking closely at the shape of our home. Okay, so looking at shape in our world. A space for recipes. This was a exploration we did making stone soup together. So here's my daughter's invented spelling of her recipe of stone soup and a few of my little observations as well. Poems and songs. Again, another leaf study. Here we did some leaf observations with wire. We measured and explored pumpkins. So you can see that this is a place for work to be housed and documented and shared. Here's her pizza ingredients list. I won't go through all of it, but you know, you can see that there is just chock full of her work and learning throughout the year. So the idea book is something that's a really, really great, you know, more artwork. Here we go, plasticine paintings. You can see that an idea book is a really great sort of one-stop shop for all your child's really authentic work. I'm not talking about worksheet type teacher-directed tasks. There's a time and a place for that, and we're going to explore that in a moment. But this is more for the hands-on learning that happens. I call them table time invitations, invitations to create. That all goes inside your child's idea book. And this is a piece that will be treasured for a long, long while to come. Okay, The next thing I wanted to share with you, and one of my favorite tools, a very inexpensive one here, are these Uli paint sets. So these are puck style watercolors, and you can see here that's what the label looks like. Okay, they're called paint pods, and these are some of my very favorite paints to use with children because they're relatively mess-free. So one thing that I like to pair with those is a dollar store tray, okay? Because I know many parents shy away from using art media with their children because of the mess situation. But as soon as you introduce a plastic tray like this one with sides from Dollarama, you know, you keep the paper. You can even tape it inside the tray, and the mess stays here inside the tray. So it's a really great tool to have, not only for art, as well as sensory exploration. Okay, so these Uli paint pods are some of my absolute favorites. Moving along, now, most of you will not have a setup like this one behind me with a chart stand and chart paper, but I do love my large scale chart paper. If you don't have the space or the budget to afford a chart stand or chart paper, that one there is just sort of affixed to the wall. I've got some an IKEA sort of whiteboard behind it, and it's just affixed with a few paper clips, or not paper clips, but clips. If you don't have the budget or the means to have large scale chart paper, there is something really magical that happens to kids when they raise their gaze up off the page and draw attention to a large scale size like that, especially if you're modeling things like printing, or you're doing some, you know, share the pen activities where you're modeling phonetic spelling and things like that. There is something really special that happens. However, we can always modify because we are resourceful. So one thing I love are these little clear plastic page protectors, okay, just from Staples, right? So they're just a clear protector, 3-hole punch on the side. But these come in really handy if you do want to model things like printing or simple CVC words. Just stick your sheet inside here. This would be for more of a teacher-directed, teacher-led type task. And a little clipboard, okay? So if your kids have one and you have one, you're off to the races. So what I would love for you to pick up is just a few of these dry erase markers and a little tiny sponge like this. And we're going to pretend that you're modeling how to do the letter C, right? That's a common place where we start with printing, the magic C. So you would model with your dry erase, making that letter C. And then with the sponge, you're going to trace along and create that same shape to erase it. Okay, so we're modeling first, then we're having our children try with together. Could be a bit of hand over hand here where you're taking their hand and modeling with them. And then let them have a go, okay? Again, they're retracing that shape with the sponge, but this can come in handy, like I said, for practicing printing. It can come in handy if you're working on sight words or spelling. These are printables that are part of my program here, but all of these can easily be placed inside these sheet protectors for practice over and over again. Okay, so that's my second one. So that's a clear page protector. Sorry, that's number 3. Clear page protector and a dry erase along with a sponge. Now, for some of your more teacher-led tasks, I recommend having 3 duotangs. Okay, so these are duotangs with the 3-hole punch or the 3-hole prongs on the side here. These are all available at your local Staples, Walmart, even the dollar store, I think, carries these now. But I would love for you to grab one for your math rhythms. So number of the day, for example, one for your phonics and your spelling. Okay, so depending on the level of your child, if they're just learning those initial alphabet sounds and they're doing, for example, here we might be spying around our environment for things that start with a, and they could draw some pictures. Later on, we do sort of like a making words activity. This is sort of a word families. So words that rhyme with in, pin, bin. those kinds of things. So all of your phonics and spelling work can go in one duotang. And then your printing. So, what we were just talking about here, printing practice can go in a separate duotang. Okay, so math work, literacy, so your phonics and your spelling, as well as your printing practice. Okay, so I would suggest with starting with just those three and keeping everything kind of organized in those 3 duotangs will just help keep those subject areas separate. So you're kind of on track and organized with more of that teacher-directed learning in both literacy and math. Second last thing I want to share, often folks don't know where to start with writing, okay? And young children, they first learn how to communicate their ideas through drawing, okay? So drawing pictures and painting pictures and all that kind of stuff. Once they're ready to start attaching print to those pictures, one thing that I find really helpful is grabbing yourself one of these Hilroy scribblers. Mead in the States would be the equivalent of Hilroy here in Canada. But this is just a simple booklet here that's half lined and half blank. Okay, so this would be very age appropriate for our younger learners because this space up here would be the space where they're going to be showing their ideas with pictures. Now, a super simple rhythm to get your children writing is every Monday and every Friday. Just start with those 2 invitations alone. So on Mondays, you can talk about what the favorite thing over the weekend was. Okay, in schools, we call this moi, my weekend at home. And it's a great prompt to write a little bit about the favorite thing that happened over the weekend. On Fridays, you can talk about the favorite piece of learning that they did. So did you get outside and enjoy nature and found a really cool spider on your nature walk? You know, your child might write about that, draw a picture about that, and label their picture. So this is my daughter Mia's writer's notebook here. And you can see here that she has her pictures and then she's got her kids spelling. So this is beginning invented spelling down below to match her picture. Now, if your child is not quite there yet, you can just start by having them label with the beginning sound that they hear. Have them stretch those words out slowly, like for example, hockey. Have them stretch that word out slowly and really listen to that first sound, hockey, and have them label a letter H. Okay, so just start with baby steps, labeling their picture. And as they get a little bit more confident and stronger with their understanding of alphabet sounds and the connections, they can start to print single sentences. And then eventually we're going to have them fill up that page with lots and lots of ideas. So those 2 prompts are a really great way, super easy rhythm to get started on. Mondays and Fridays is when we do writing. You can also use a writer's notebook to do literature responses. So if you want to talk about your favorite part about a book, this would be a great place for them to reflect on that. Now, I'm all about making things artful, right? So this is kind of boring and blasé, but your child will have so much more ownership of their writer's notebook if you allow them to really decorate it themselves. So taking this booklet here, spreading it out kind of like this, and having them use process art. So a huge page here, you know, just 11 by 14, have them kind of muck about with different process art techniques, some paints, you know, scraping with combs and that kind of thing, purely open-ended prompt. And then once it dries, just snip off the corners and fold them inside the book like so. And that just makes a really cool kind of cover for your notebook. Now, finally, 2 more things here. If you're going to be working at your kitchen table or dining room table, you probably want to have a portable caddy with supplies. So this one's called Boone Stash, but nowadays at the dollar store and Walmart and all those stores, they carry these portable caddies. Some are made with seagrass, others are sort of a metal. But these are really great for bringing your supplies around and having sort of a portable caddy of supplies. So in ours, we've got some sharpened pencils, some scissors, glue sticks, a ruler, and a whole bunch of markers. Okay, so this is just something that's really handy to be taken around. If you want to do work outside, it's a great tool as well to, again, take your supplies outdoors without too much, thank you, without too much of a struggle. Now, finally, one of my absolute favorites. Hi, Robin. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Robin. So one of my favorite tools to use with young children as young as 3 are Sharpie markers. Now, friends, I don't want you to be scared about using Sharpies with your kids. When they're taught and we model for them properly how to use a Sharpie marker and know the limits that we're not going to be using them, you know, throughout the house on furniture and walls and things like that, these are pure magic. And you can see here, I mean, the amount of times that I use a Sharpie marker with my kids is abundant. I love, love, love Sharpies. In fact, I get the set from Costco every year that has like 30 of them. I have a dedicated jar for them because I love them so much in art. They just create this really beautiful, crisp line and a way to, you know, help children communicate their ideas visually. It's just so powerful and packs a lot of punch. So Sharpies are a great, great tool to invest in as well. So I shared with you more than I was going to. I was going to share with you my top 3 tools, but I couldn't narrow it down to 3. I think I shared 6 or 7 with you. So hopefully that starts to get your wheels turning and starts to get you excited about implementing some of these ideas for the fall, whether it's because you're homeschooling your children for the first time, or perhaps you're just doing enrichment for your children, right? You're bringing the arts and all those beautiful things into your home to enrich your child's educational life. So I hope you found that helpful. Any questions, I would love to answer them. In terms of resources, I'm going to be popping in the comments below a resource that I prepared called the Quick Start Supply Guide. And so these are your tools that you might find at the dollar store, tools that specifically for art. So your more open-ended art supplies, and then your basics, right? Those are your basic academic tools and materials. So the list is separated into 3 categories. It's a clickable source list, and I think you're going to find it really useful. Do you need everything on the list? Absolutely not. But it should give you some ideas as to what you might bring into your homeschool space. Now, if you're looking for more guidance, I have a Homeschool Startup Kit here that I've got for sale. It's only $12.97, and it's jam-packed with schedule, routines, day plans, supply lists. I don't know if you can see that at all. Routine cards, you know, visuals for our children. It's also got that quick start supply list, which you're going to get for free here, but you can kind of see what it looks like. So here they are. These are all clickable, like I said. It's got a book list. And then some ideas for strews. So if you have younger children at home and you need some invitations to play, simple setups for them to explore while you're teaching them more teacher-directed stuff, there's some ideas in there, some checklists for you. And then, of course, it's got a week's worth of table time invitations inside, along with the joy sheets that come with those. So, you know, we've got some loose part spaces, all kinds of fun table time explorations to start to get into with your children. And then at the very end, I share some of my favorite rhythms for both literacy and math, as well as some links to my YouTube channel on how private videos on how I use those with young children. So that is for sale, and I'm just going to show you the link here. There it is, artfulteachingjoyfullearning.com, Homeschool Startup Kit. Okay, so I will link to that as well down in the comments below. If you'd like a little bit more of a push or a bit more guidance. Now, those of you inside the tribe, inside Artful Teaching Joyful Learning curriculum and companion course, you will already have access to all of this. So don't you go buy that for yourselves. And if you're, once again, if you're looking at homeschooling your kids this fall, I would love to have you inside our tribe come September. That's when doors will open again. In the meantime, I am busy supporting this group of very intentional homeschoolers here inside our cohort. So I look forward to hearing from you all once again. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will be happy to get back to you. If not, I will see you next week sometime. Bye for now, everyone.